What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Hoopers Lounge with myself and Alex. And today we will be previewing the NBA Finals. The season is almost over, folks, and the finals are here. The matchup is set. Game one is Wednesday night in San Antonio between the Knicks and the Spurs. And I personally am super excited for this matchup. I think it's going to do great for TV. Obviously, you have the New York market paired with Wembanyama, who draws so many fans. I think this series is going to be must-watch television, even for the casual fan. I think they will enjoy this series very much, and I think it's a huge step up just from entertainment value compared to last year's finals, which I'll get into in a little bit. But I think this series to me is way more intriguing than Thunder Pacers from last year. So, Alex, before we get into the finals preview, we're going to go over some of the games we did not touch on last episode because we recorded before it happened. And most importantly, that would be game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, which was honestly one of the more important games in deciding the future of the league, in my opinion, as OKC really was one win away from cementing themselves as a dynasty in the West. But San Antonio took it away from them on their home court. Shout out to the Spurs. And Alex, I'll let you lead the conversation wherever you want to go with what were your thoughts for Game 7?
First of all, absolute classic series that lived up to the billing. The fact that it went 7 games is, I'm sure, exactly what the NBA wanted between these two teams who are poised to be rivals for the next decade plus of the NBA. So this could be the start of a long San Antonio Oklahoma City rivalry, and this is the first chapter. San Antonio got the job done, which honestly surprised me. In our last episode, I said Oklahoma was going to take game 6, therefore winning the series. I thought experience mattered. I thought Oklahoma, coming off the championship, were more well prepared to play in these big games. Whereas this was the first game 7, and, you know, most of the Spurs played the first game 6 last series against the Timberwolves. They don't have experience in these harsh environments, especially on the road. But wow, this young San Antonio team did the unthinkable. Took down, like you said, what looked like to be a dynasty in the making in the Thunder. So, I mean, this team has blown away everyone's expectations. Even the people who were high on San Antonio coming into the year, their own expectations have been blown away. It is incredible to watch this team play. And my favorite part of the game was seeing the team all hug each other, crying and cheering after winning that game. That type of emotion and that type of passion is so needed in this league today. It was so refreshing to watch from the almost nonchalant gimmick that has taken over the league in the last half decade. I loved it as an NBA fan and as somebody that loves basketball. It makes me want to see the Spurs win and makes me want to see them succeed. Last thing I want to say, and just a quick recap. I know we shit on SGA a lot for flopping, and rightfully so. But Game 7 showed why he is truly a generational talent in the league. When Shea is focused on making shots instead of trying to get to the free throw line, the dude is incredible. He was the entire Thunder offense in the second half. He was hitting contested double team mid range. He was hitting mid rangers over Wembanyama's 8-foot wingspan. It was a sight to behold and showed why Shea is one of the premier talents in the league, which also makes his play style so frustrating. Because if we would get this Game 7 version of Shea throughout the regular season, he would be one of the most popular players in the league. I mean, he was just 3 years ago before this whole flopping shtick started. I mean, he defined the word aura before it became mainstream. So shout out SGA. I want to give him his flowers. I know it came in a losing effort, but I think he was the best player on the court in that Game 7. He showed out big time.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He was by far the best player in Game 7, in my opinion. And it sucks for him that his three second options were not there in Game 7. And I'll get into that just here now. But with J Dub and AJ Mitchell out and Chet disappearing, I mean, to do that performance is unreal. And I'm glad you shouted him out because he was watching him play. I feel bad for the just the fatigue set in at the end. I remember he had that three with like a minute left. He airballed, and I just thought to myself, like, that's so sad. Like he's been doing everything for the whole game, and he just ran out of gas at the end. That sucks for him, and it sucks for the Thunder because I think their role players actually had a great series. Alex Caruso and Cason Wallace in particular, I thought were terrific. But the health and the disappearance of their secondary scoring options really did them in this series to me. That was the big difference. The Spurs supporting cast was just their like second tier of talent was so much better. I think the Thunder role players played about as good as they like Caruso. That was the best series I've seen from him offensively, probably ever, probably in his career. Like that was the best offensive version of Caruso we've ever seen. Case and Wallace, I thought he should have got more minutes. He was really good in Game 7 and in the whole series in particular. But shout out to the Spurs, and I'm also glad you mentioned the emotion that they showed because that was really cool to see how everyone embraced each other, how they all like care for each other so much. It's awesome, and I've been seeing a lot of criticism online about it, about how they're acting like they already won the championship and all that. And I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot different than that because, for example, the Knicks, right? So they won against Cleveland in Game 4, and after the game, Brunson and Cat are sitting on the bench and they're doing that nonchalant stick that you're talking about. When Cat looked over to Brunson and all he said was 4 more. That's all he said. 4 more. That's how they celebrated the Eastern Conference Finals was 4 more, right? The mentality that the job's not finished. And I think the Spurs to beat the defending champions in the Western Conference Finals, that does take a lot out of them physically and mentally through a 7-game series. And I think the fact that they were able to overcome that challenge is why you saw that emotion versus them thinking they've already won the championship. And I've been seeing a lot of that online, and I just kind of disagree with that. I think the motive behind the emotion is not them thinking that was, their toughest test, because I think they are smart enough to know that this series will be harder than the last. That's how the playoffs work. The next series is always harder. Like the next win in professional sports is always the next one. That's the hardest win to get. And so I think the Spurs understand that. I think their coaches understand that. They have enough vets on the roster to understand that. And I wanted to kind of clarify that because I've been seeing online people calling them soft or maybe arrogant for assuming that, like, yay, we won the West, but like job's not finished. I think they know very well the job's not finished. And I'm really excited for this series. So.
The next win in sports is always the next one. Absolute bars from Max over here. But no, in all serious,
it's true though.
I see your point.
It's true though.
No, I agree with you. Like this is a series worth celebrating, right? The Spurs beat the defending champion. This is the team they had their eye on all season. They've been matched up against all season. A cathartic, emotional 7-game series that you won on the road. Yeah, that's worth celebrating. But at the same time, you're facing a well-rested Knicks team into the finals. And we saw last year that just because the East is a weaker conference doesn't mean you can take your finals opponent lightly. Because the Pacers, had it not been for that Halliburton injury, had a very, very good chance of us not even talking about the Thunder as defending champions to begin with. I mean, that was a Achilles injury away from being a very likely possibility. So I think the Spurs know very well that they cannot take the Knicks lightly, that they cannot go in thinking the job is finished. We took care of our hardest matchup because, like you said, you play the game in sports for a reason. You can decide everything on paper, but you play the games for a reason. And when you play the games, anything can happen. And I think the Spurs team knows that better than anyone. I think they're going to be prepared against the Knicks, and I honestly think this rest that the Knicks are getting could potentially hurt them more in terms of the rest versus rust debate. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. But if I'm the Spurs, yeah, you're celebrating this. You're a young team that exceeded all expectations. You beat the defending champion. You stopped a potential dynasty. Nobody thought you would be here 8 months ago. You have proved everyone wrong. And so, yeah, you take the time. You celebrate it. You get hype as a team. You did something incredible, and it's something that will be remembered down the road. One more thing I want to talk about in this series, and then obviously if you have anything else we want to talk about, is Chet Holmgren. Because, wow. I need to remind you, this man made All-NBA third team, right? He was named one of the best 15 players in the NBA this year, according to that metric. Yeah, a couple missed because of injury, like Anthony Edwards. But Top 20 player, we'll say for safekeeping. He was a top 20 player in the league this year, accordingly. So what does a top 20 player in the league do in Game 7? He shoots 1 of 2 from the floor. Let me repeat that. 1 of 2. You are getting paid $50 million a year to shoot 2 shots when your season most depends on it. Genuinely unbelievable. And honestly, Chet just looked demoralized that entire Game 7. Wemby posterized Chet like 2 minutes into the game, and after that, it just looked like Chet's heart wasn't in it. Like he every time Wemby matched up against him defensively, Chet looked scared to attack. And the one time he did attack, he fell on the floor trying to draw a foul and ended up turning the ball over. It was not a competition between Chet and Wemby in the slightest. I mean, Chet looked terrified by the man. He was completely absent in Game 7, and his future in Oklahoma might be up in the air after that disappearing act, because that was bad. You cannot be playing a player $250 million across 5 years to be disappearing like that when your season matters most.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a horrendous performance from Chet. First off, I want to say that first. I am of the believer that one game or one series in particular does not define you as a player. I think Chet is better. He's now slowly becoming underrated. And let me tell you what I mean by that. The hate on him is starting to pile up very quickly, but it feels like he only disappears when he plays against Wemby. So to me, I would not give up on Chet Holmgren if I'm Oklahoma City. Now, I would not give him the supermax that he's eligible for. I wouldn't do that either. But I would not personally ship him out of the building, because I want to get your opinion on this. How many players defensively at his position are better than Chet Holmgren? And for sake of argument, we'll just say he's a center. Even though he plays the 4, we'll say he's a center. How many defensive?
Wemby,
Yeah.
what?
So if you get rid of Chet, who are you replacing him that's better on that end of the court? You're not getting Wemby. You're not getting Wemby for Chet. So no one, right? So again, it's all about, people are very quick to want to give up on Chet, and I understand, because now's the time you would jump off that ship. And I still think offensively he's not developed. Needs to work on that, obviously. The confidence was the biggest issue in this series. It was not his skill. It was his mental confidence in this series that really did him in, like you said. But I would not move off of him if I was the Thunder. He's too young and he's too talented to give up on him, because he got bullied by Wemby. And let's keep it real. Wemby's been doing this to everyone all year. So to give up on your, franchise center because he had one bad series, I think is jumping the gun too early. That's how I would put it. It does not take away from his performance. His performance was still terrible. It was still awful, and it was still inexcusable, especially when Jalen Williams and AJ Mitchell were out. You knew you were going to have to shoot more, probably, to help out SGA. And it was just an embarrassing performance by Chet. But that's my thoughts on his future in Oklahoma City. I think financially this series definitely hurt him, but I don't think we're going to see Chet on a different team next year. I think he's going to stay in Oklahoma City, and I think what Shea said in the postgame I thought was awesome, talking about how we need Chet, we need him at his best. That's a real great teammate right there, picking up his teammate at his lowest point of his career, instead of, burying Chet and saying something along the lines of, I felt like I was all alone tonight, didn't really have a lot of help. I really wish Jalen Williams was healthy, something along those lines, right? Instead, he picked up Chet and said, we need Chet at his best if we want to get where we're going. And I thought that was props to SGA for that also after the game, because that's how you keep the morale of your teammates after rough games, rough series, rough seasons. And Chet was a huge part of their team last year. And so let's not just forget about what the Thunder did last year, because they lost in 7 games to the Spurs, who were heading into the postseason. People gave them just as good of a chance as the Thunder to make it out of the West. So I think the Chet hate, he's slowly, in my opinion, becoming underrated now. Like, he's slowly on that trajectory of next year when he's back playing at that borderline all-star level, because he's not playing against Wemby every night, and people are going to say, wow, where was this Chet last year in the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. Well, he's not playing against Wemby. That's that's what's happening. So that's my opinion on Chet.
Okay, great call on SGA on your end. Literally, it is only the flopping the reason SGA gets hate because he is an incredible player, a great teammate, an amazing leader. He is everything you want in a superstar. It is just his play style. SGA is truly an incredible talent in the league. And yeah, the Thunder would not be where they are, obviously, without him. But he's going to go down as incredibly underrated because of the way he's playing in his prime, and it kind of sucks to see because he needs to get his flowers when he can. The issue with Chet Holmgren is not his talent, right? Nobody's giving up on Chet as a player. Like you said, he's still one of the most impactful rim protectors in the NBA. He still has a deeper offensive bag than I'd say more than half of other centers around the league. The issue with Chet is surrounding his contract. You cannot pay a player $50 million. That is superstar money. That is second option or first option money in the postseason for him to shoot twice in the Western Conference Finals. With, like he said, Jalen Williams and AJ Mitchell out due to injury, your other all-star who you're paying $50 million has to step up. Because if not, you're burning that money. Chet's performance in Game 7 should have got him about $5 million. That's what he should have gotten paid for that performance. So it's burning money what Oklahoma's doing if Chet truly cannot compete with Wembanyama. If that is the case, you have to get rid of him. You have to look for another option. And there have been whispers about Oklahoma making a move for Giannis. If they decide to do that, I think Chet Holmgren will have to be in that package. He will have to be going to Milwaukee if Sam Presti decides to jump that move. And I do think that is too soon, right? The Thunder did just win last year. They lost a tough 7-game series. And their team is still overall very young. They have a treasure trove of draft picks they can use to improve. And Sam Presti is historically a very patient GM who doesn't really feel the need to rush and jump the gun to acquire a superstar. So I do not, if I, gun to my head, if I had to make a prediction on this, I don't think the Thunder will make a move for Giannis. But if that decision is made within the Thunder front office that they need to upgrade, Chet Holmgren, I think, will have to be in that package to Milwaukee.
Yeah, I do agree with you that if Giannis were to move, Chet would be one of the return pieces. I do agree with that. I also think that it is bad management by, Sam Presti and his colleagues to trade Chet with the mindset of we have to not avoid Wemby, but we're assuming we're going to play Wemby in the playoffs. Because let's not forget who else is in the Western Conference. Jokic and Ant and Luka and all the other guys. Like, the West is so loaded. And so to trade Holmgren to quote unquote upgrade, assuming you're going to face off with the Spurs in the playoffs, but it may hurt you in other areas, so to speak, if you were for other matchups. I don't, the Thunder should not make a move to beat the Spurs, if that makes sense. Like, that should not be the goal of making the move. And I feel like moving Chet Holmgren, that would be your only goal, is because you saw how he played against Wemby, and you're thinking to yourselves, how do we beat Wemby? But it's not even a guarantee you play Wemby in the playoffs every year, let alone in the Western Conference Finals. I mean, there's injuries, there's other matchups. Like, anything can happen, right? So we would assume that these two teams are going to be good, and we would assume that these two teams would make, an appearance against each other again. But I think I am of the opinion that it's bad management to make moves if you're trying to predict the future in the process. That never works in sports. And I hope that they don't move Chet with the sole focus of how do we improve to beat the Spurs. I don't think that's a good idea if you're Oklahoma City, especially when you have all these draft picks. Like, your future, just like San Antonio, is very, very fruitful. It's very, promising. And I feel like Chet is still a part of that future, even after a horrendous series.
I agree to an extent because I just looked up the numbers because I wanted to be accurate. Chet has made $41 million this year. Giannis is making $54 million. So if your options are Chet and one of the Oklahoma City forwards, or Giannis and Isaiah Hartenstein for an extra $15 million, give or take, I think that is a worthy upgrade. Like I said, it's not the issue of Chet as a player; it's Chet with the contract that he's on. He can't be getting paid $50 million a year to disappear like he did against San Antonio, and he can show out against the other 29 teams, and that's awesome. But if he can't get through San Antonio, if he can't get through Wemby, that is a problem for Oklahoma City, who have the goal of winning championships. So if they believe in their front office that Giannis's contract is and his contract is worth taking on over Chet and his contract, I think you pull the trigger if you're Sam Presti. That's not a guarantee. It's a big discussion to be had because you would have to give up a lot more than Chet. You'd have to give up a couple of your young players, probably one or two of your young guards who you've been developing, a treasure trove of draft picks. Like, this would be a win now move. This would not give you the chance of a dynasty. This would be hopefully winning one or two rings in the short term. Is that a sacrifice they're willing to make? We'll have to stay tuned and find out. But I think it'll be a very interesting offseason for Oklahoma. A lot of decisions to be made, a lot of things to ponder over, and for the decision makers to have to figure out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's going to be a very interesting offseason for Oklahoma City as well. Let's move on to our finals preview, which, like I said at the beginning of the show, the finals start on Wednesday night in San Antonio, Knicks and Spurs. And I kind of split up my notes, Alex, by team. So I'll let you kind of pick where we start. You want to talk about the Knicks first or the Spurs? What do you think?
I think we start off with the Knicks, just because that's a team. We've talked about the Spurs for the last 20 minutes. I think it's time that we give the Knicks some love. The Knicks are coming off one of the best stretches of play, not just this season, not just in their franchise history, but in the history of the NBA. They have not only won their last 11 playoff games, but they have set the record for the largest point differential in a 10-game span in the history of NBA basketball. Not just playoff history, all of the NBA. They have the largest point differential. They haven't just been winning, they have been dominating the Eastern Conference on a level that we've never seen in the playoffs. They are arguably the most well-rested team going into the finals in the history of the NBA because they didn't just have this week off. Jalen Brunson and the starters had basically the fourth quarter off of games 2 through 4 against Cleveland. This team is rested. This team is this is as day one as you can get at this point in the season. But there's always the rest versus rust debate. How much time off can you have before it starts to hurt your team with their play? The Knicks were playing incredible basketball, the best basketball in New York Knicks history. Does 8 days off in between games change any of that? Yes, they'll be well rested, but will they still be on that hot streak that they were that got them on that 11-game win streak? That, I think, is a very big factor in this series, and I think San Antonio is going to take game one pretty handily because of that rust factor. This is not the same New York Knicks team that we're going to see in the last 11 games. It's going to take them more time to get back into the swing of things and to get back to playing finals level intensity, whereas the Spurs have been playing that for the last, week or so? A week or 2 weeks? So I think that is a crucial factor in this series because these are two teams with entirely different rest versus rust kind of situations. So that is what I'm keeping an eye on in this upcoming game one. How rusty do the New York Knicks look? But after that, I think it's going to be a great series. I do want to hear what you have to say about this rest versus rust. Do you think this 8 days off helps the Knicks, or do you think it hurts them more?
Short term, like you said, game one, I do think it hurts them. And we saw this in game one against the Cavs, right? They started really slow, and then that fourth quarter, the Cavs lost their legs. I'm not saying the Spurs are going to lose their legs in game one, but if this series goes 6 or 7, that rest the Knicks got before this series is going to matter. That's going to matter if this series goes deep, right? If you're the Spurs, I think to avoid that fatigue physically, mentally, this series needs to be over in 6 games minimum or maximum, excuse me, possibly sooner, I think, for them to have the best chance at winning this thing. But the longer this series goes, I do think the rest for the Knicks, not only leading up to the finals, but leading up to the Eastern Conference Finals, they swept the Sixers in the second round. So this rest is compounding for them. And I did the math. They've played an entire 4 games less than the Spurs. That's an entire series worth of games they've played less than San Antonio in this postseason. I definitely think that will matter. If this series goes deep 6, 7 games, I think that's when you could start to see the Knicks have a little bit more legs because they just haven't played as much basketball as the Spurs. Game one, I agree with you. I think it'll be easier for the Spurs to get back into the flow for game one because of what they just went through. I do agree with you there. So it's kind of a like half one way, half the other. Like the Knicks will be rusty a little bit in game one, but I think the rust, whenever it will not take them longer than 3 quarters to bounce that rust off, in my opinion. We saw it last series. It took them 3 quarters to bounce the rust off. Then after that, they destroyed Cleveland for the next 3 1/4 games. Destroyed them. Wasn't even close. So I do think how much rust they will have will not be as much as the rest benefits them later in the series, if that makes sense. So right now, as a betting man, the Spurs are 4.5 point favorites at home in game one, which means when the Knicks are at home, they'll probably be 1.5 favorites or 1.5 dogs. So the odds definitely favor the Spurs here in this series, which makes a lot of sense. Here were my thoughts, though, more so on the actual matchup. Karl Anthony Towns, this is a legacy series for Karl Anthony Towns because I think he has the opportunity to do something that nobody has done to San Antonio yet in this postseason, just because they haven't really played anyone with his capabilities. And he actually has the capabilities to pull Wemby away from the basket. Nobody the Spurs have played yet have had to deal with a stretch five, the caliber of Karl Anthony Towns. The only one I can think of is Naz Reid, who had a very good series for Minnesota. He was very good off the bench against San Antonio because he was able to stretch the floor and hit threes. But in the Western Conference Finals, we've already talked about Chet, and Hartenstein doesn't shoot threes. So Wemby could sit in the paint, protect the paint, not worry about those guys from three. And in the first round, Donovan Clingan does not shoot the ball as well as Karl Anthony Towns. So I think Cat is a serious X factor. If the Knicks can use him correctly and let Cat roam on the outside, kick it out to open threes, make Wembanyama respect his jump shot, make him come out and contest, that opens up extra passes, pump fakes, dribble penetration for the other players. Because if Cat gets hot, right, and he's having a great series from beyond the arc, that just opens up more opportunities for Josh Hart, Brunson, Bridges to attack, get to the basket, get to the free throw line, and make those guards of San Antonio have to guard you. Because we've talked about this. It's easy to be aggressive on defense when Wemby's sitting behind you protecting the paint. But if Wemby's not behind you, are you going to be able to guard Brunson for a full 4 quarters? I don't know, right? Like, I seriously think this is something the Spurs just have not had to contend with this postseason run. And I'm really interested to see how Karl Anthony Towns exploits this matchup. Because I think individually, you and I would think to ourselves, well, Cat's not going to cook Wemby. But I think Cat could actually open it up for his teammates if he just plays complementary basketball. That's all Cat needs to do in this series, I think, and he will have played his role well because he is drawing Wemby as far away from the rim as possible. So what do you think about that kind of aspect of the game that maybe I think a lot of people are not focusing on because they haven't played a center with the offensive capabilities of Cat all playoffs?
Completely agree with everything you said. I have Wemby as probably going to be the best player in the series. Brunson is probably going to be the second best player. Karl Anthony Towns is the X factor of this series. He needs to be the third best player for the Knicks to have any chance. And this floor stretching capabilities is one thing, like you said, pulling Wemby out from the paint, allowing other open driving lanes for Brunson and his teammates is definitely something Karl Anthony Towns can contribute. What I think is the biggest determination of how that matchup goes is foul trouble, both ways. Karl Anthony Towns has a tendency to pick up early, quick, stupid fouls, and if he's not able to be on the floor and you're playing Mitchell Robinson instead, yeah, your offense is going to be stagnant against the Wemby-led defense. So Karl Anthony Towns, by whatever he has to do to stay on the court and avoid fouls, he has to do it. It is imperative for the Knicks that he is able to stay on. And on the other side, we also saw Wemby get into foul trouble a couple couple of times against the Oklahoma City series. And when Wemby's in foul trouble, yes, San Antonio usually trusts him to stay on the floor and keep playing, but his aggressiveness is so toned down. Like, and a perfect example of that is Game 7. When he picked up that fifth foul early in the fourth quarter, I mean, Wemby was not aggressive the rest of the game. He couldn't be. He couldn't be attacking the offensive glass on offense, and he couldn't be contesting every shot on defense in fear of picking up that sixth and final foul. And I mean, the shot making of San Antonio got them through that game. Champagnie hitting clutch threes, Dylan Harper making that clutch step back into putback bucket. The shot making of Oklahoma City got them through, but them getting Wemby his fifth foul gave Oklahoma a chance, and that is what the Knicks are going to have to do. If they can get Wemby in foul trouble and take away that game-changing defense, that will change not just the individual game, but the entire series. If Wemby gets in foul trouble and the Spurs lose game 1 or 2 because of it, that is something that is going to stay on his mind. That is going to he's aggressive. He's not going to be able to be as aggressive, knowing that I have to stay on the floor for my team to win. It's going to maybe take away some offensive boards that he could get because he doesn't want to get in over the back. It's going to take away some shots he could contest at the rim because he doesn't want to pick up an early second or third foul. So fouls on both sides of the court in the center position for Karl Anthony Towns and for Wemby are huge, and I think that is maybe what is going to decide the series as a whole. Which bigman can avoid foul trouble better?
Yeah, I had that written down as keys to the series too, because Wemby in Game 7 almost, I don't want to say cost his team the game, but if he had fouled out there in Game 7 and they lost, I think a lot of people would be looking at Wemby saying you can't pick up, 1 or 2 of those fouls knowing that your team needs you to be on the court, right? That definitely would have been a narrative leading into the finals. A couple other minor advantages I want to talk about. Keyword minor, because both these teams that made the finals, I think, are so evenly matched, top to bottom with the rosters. But a couple other minor advantages that right now I would give to the Knicks. I think their supporting cast, so I'm considering that everyone not named Jalen Brunson, is more versatile offensively than the Spurs. And what I think OG and Bridges and Cat can all shoot the ball collectively better than Fox, Castle, Harper. And they're bigger and they're stronger. So to me, the supporting cast of the Knicks is going to be a little bit more challenging to guard than the supporting cast of the Spurs. The one edge I would give the Spurs supporting cast is definitely playmaking. Obviously, Castle and Harper and Fox can make plays for others, like Vassell and Champagnie, who are going to have to be big in this series. But OG, Bridges, and Cat, to me, are kind of a matchup nightmare for the Spurs. With Wemby dragged out guarding Cat, like I said, Cat does not have to be an all-NBA level player in this series. He just has to be competent on offense and give you 15 points and 10 rebounds on the other end, and I think that's him doing his job. But to me, if Castle is guarding Brunson, which I assume, I don't know who's going to guard OG in this series. I think he also is in for he might be a walking 20 points per game this series, to me. If Karl Anthony Towns is able to stay on the court and they're able to move the ball and get OG going early, I think matchup-wise, he's going to be an issue for San Antonio. But on the other side, when I look at their matchups, right, like Wemby is really the only one that I think to myself, the Knicks don't have a matchup defensively for Wemby. But Castle, like I don't think Josh Hart's going to have a problem guarding Castle. It's going to be difficult, but I know Josh Hart is capable of doing that, right? Bridges, I think, can stay with Fox or whatever matchup. OG, I think, can guard Dylan Harper whenever he's in there, right? But I don't know who's going to guard. I have 2 question marks for the Spurs defense. Is Castle going to be able to guard Brunson after 7 games of guarding Shea, or is he going to be absolutely exhausted? And who the hell is going to guard OG and Mikal Bridges? That duo. Who's going to guard them? I don't know. So I give a slight supporting cast edge to the Knicks at this point in time. And the other advantage, I do slightly lean Mike Brown as a coach just because of his experience. And I think the necessary adjustments that the Knicks will eventually have to make in this series, I think I trust Mike Brown a little bit more than Mitch Johnson. But like I said, that's a minor advantage. So what do you think about those?
I guess the matchup is different, but Castle was the primary defender against Shea in Game 7. That was Julian Champagny. And I with the with the Thunder playing a lot more guards, yeah, that's something you can get away with. But the Knicks play tall. The Knicks play forwards and the shooting guard, and everyone aside from Jalen Brunson is like 6'7", 6'8", built like a wing. So I think size is going to be crucial. I don't think you can put Castle on Jalen Brunson because then who's going to guard OG? Who's going to guard Bridges? Who's going to guard these wings that can do basically it all for New York? I think you're going to have to put Fox on Brunson just to match up size-wise with the two wings. And yeah, exactly. That's
With
my
the
exact
bad with
reaction.
the bad
That's
ankle,
not
that's not good.
with the bad
No,
ankle.
yeah,
That's,
no,
that's not what San Antonio would want to do. But I don't think they're going to have
Yeah.
another choice because you're going to need size to defend these wings. Castle and Harper provide size, and that was a big reason why I was harping, or no pun intended, why I was harping Dylan Harper over De'Aaron Fox. Not necessarily because of the skill, but because of the size and versatility that he offers in comparison to Fox. You can't put Fox up against the wings. You can do that with Harper, and that is going to matter this series. Brunson is going to have to step up against De'Aaron Fox. He's going to have to force San Antonio to bring. Yeah, I think he will too.
He will.
But San Antonio is going to have to be forced to bring a double, and if that happens, that's open threes abound for the elite shooting team that New York is. The one concern I have about New York is that shooting is one of those high variance skill sets. And do you really want to bank on a team continuing their hot shooting streak after 8 days of rest, after 8 days off? They basically just had an extended all-star break, and you're asking them to get back right into the form that they won 11 games in. That is no easy feat. And hell, this could be a series where they die by the three, where they were shooting elite percentages in their 11-game win streak. I mean, Landry Shamet shot over 90%. He made 12 of 13 threes, like we said last episode in their series against Cleveland. Is that elite shooting really going to carry over against San Antonio? Especially a team with the best rim protector in the league and with 8 days of rest. I don't know. I mean, this is one of those high variance skills that can really go either way this series. And you know, you could really point to every series and say shooting is going to determine this series. But I think especially in this one, the Knicks are going to have to recapture that form as soon as possible. Because if they get down 0-2 and are shooting bad from the three, I think you'd be able to put a bow in the series. I mean, if they can't get the three-point shot going, that's GG's.
Yeah, I agree with that to an extent. The Knicks obviously are not a live by the three, die by the three kind of mold. That's not how they're built. But I do agree. That's how they've been that's how they've won these games, though. I do agree with you. Is they're just out shooting the crap out of their opponents. Like guys off the bench, like Landry Shamet and Deuce McBride, literally don't miss from three.
Yeah.
Like they literally don't miss off the bench from three if they're open. So to answer your question, will they be able to knock it off? I think it's about the quality of shots they can generate. If those guys are as open as they've been and their offense is moving the ball and going in transition, I think that's going to be huge for the Knicks in this series is transition, which I'll get to in a little bit. But if they can get those threes in transition, get them off the dribble penetration, and they're open looks like they've been, I've got no doubts that they have the capabilities to knock those shots down in this series. And so I guess I'll just transition into kind of my Spurs thoughts here. The turnovers, you and I talked about this off camera. The turnovers cannot continue against the Knicks. Bridges, OG, Jose Alvarado, and Josh Hart will make you pay for turnovers. Like that, they will make you pay for those turnovers. And I think Castle and Harper, in particular the younger guards, got away with a lot of turnovers in that last series. They turned the ball over a lot, and I think if that continues, the Knicks, just like the Thunder, will take advantage of that. A couple advantages I see for the Spurs, and this is kind of point-blank obvious. Home court, and they have the best player in the series. That's always a good combo heading in. However, I am concerned about the rest. Just how much gas is left in the tank. Not only physically, but emotionally, mentally. Right? Like, I know what I'm getting out of Wemby, right? But the rest of the squad, how much does Devin Vassell have left after 7 games of running around through screens? And, like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And the Spurs bench, other than Dylan Harper and Keldon Johnson, like, is Wemby, like, unbenchable right now just with how bad they are with him off the court? Like, Shout out
Hold
Luke
on a
Cornett.
second. We're not going to talk about that Luke Cornett legacy block.
Yeah,
That was
okay,
that
that's
was
one
the play
play.
of the game of
That's
Game
what.
7.
That's one play though.
I'm
There's a
kidding.
there's a
All jokes
reason.
aside, you got a point. You got a
There's
point.
a reason Wembanyama's playing 43 minutes a night because they can't take him off the court. They can't take him off the court, and so I'm interested to see how the bench performs because Harper's been awesome. Keldon Johnson, to me, he's been okay. He's been a role player off the bench, which is fine. But other than that, like, is Harrison Barnes going to get more minutes to try and, give these guys more rest in early parts of the series? Do we see maybe, I don't know, who's the Carter Bryant? He played a little bit. Do we see him more in this series to give the other guys rest in the first couple games? Like, I don't know what to expect from their bench in this series too, so that's a little concerning. And then just a secondary option to Wemby. Who's going to, game in and game out, who is going to be that second option for the Spurs? What do you think? Who's their most reliable second option? Because Fox was not reliable in the last series at all. Dylan Harper was good in their wins, but I feel like in their losses, he wasn't very productive. And Castle obviously had the turnovers. So, like, to me, I would trust Cat and OG based on how they're playing as a second option more than a consistent second option for the Spurs. So what do you think? Who do you think is going to be that second option for them this series?
Whoever is matched up against Jalen Brunson is the second option. That's not going to be the same player game in and game out, right? I assume it's going to be De'Aaron Fox is going to be Brunson's primary matchup because if you're expecting Brunson to guard 6'6" Stephon Castle or 6'6" Dylan or 6'5" Dylan Harper, that seems even worse. So putting him out on Fox seems like the most reasonable play. But if they decide to put him on Castle or Harper, yeah, you give it to one of your bigger guards and you tell him, go to work, barbecue chicken. Yeah, I mean, as good as Brunson is offensively, he struggles on the defensive end. And it's not for a lack of trying, right? He puts in effort, but it's just his size just limits how good and impactful he can truly be in that series. Like you said, Fox struggled against Oklahoma, but Oklahoma City also has some of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Right, they have a core of guys that are meant to shut down the outside shots and funnel guys into Chet Holmgren so he can rack up blocks. That is how their defense is structured. So guys like Caruso, guys like Dort, like AJ Mitchell, Kaysen Wallace, yeah, they're going to make life hard for the perimeter players. The Knicks don't necessarily have that as much. Yes, Bridges and Anunoby are tall, lanky wings who can defend everyone. But the Spurs also have height of their own. They have tall guards that I'm assuming the tall wings are going to be matched up against. Right? So Jalen Brunson is the weak spot on the Knicks defense. Whoever he is matched up against, I think is going to need to show out and exploit. Because Wemby's going to do Wemby things, right? I'm sure we're going to get at least one 30-point, 15-rebound game from Wemby this series, if not multiple. But you're right. Somebody else on the Spurs is going to have to step up. And I truly think whoever they match up against, whoever they try to hide Jalen Brunson on is going to have a game.
Yeah, I think.
One more thing I want to say about this series is that this is the same matchup as the NBA Cup Finals, Knicks versus Spurs. The Knicks got the win in that, which for people saying the Spurs are out-talent the Knicks, I agree. I think the Spurs do have more talent, but the Knicks showed that in a one-game scenario, that experience and that playoff experience that they have, that matters. The Spurs don't have that experience, the Knicks do. And in that NBA Cup playoff game, they showed out, and that one where it's one and done, you have to win. They showed out. They won that game. They showed they can get it done. Wemby is also the kind of guy that doesn't take those losses very lightly, though. I mean, he was not happy he lost the NBA Cup game. This is a man who was crying after his world team lost in the All-Star game. I'm sure he remembered that loss. Oklahoma City may have been the big team that they had to beat this year, but I'm sure losing that NBA Cup Finals against the Knicks motivated Wemby a lot. And you don't want to see an angry Wemby if you're the Knicks. Anything he can use to get that chip on his shoulder, to get that motivation, yeah, that's something to keep an eye on, I think.
A couple things I want to touch on. I agree with your Brunson take. However, I think he's going to be matched up with Champagnie a lot. I think that's the matchup for Brunson.
Let it rain threes.
I think you're living with Julian Champagnie shooting a three every possession. I think you're living with that if you're the Knicks. If you could take the ball out of the other guy's hands. So that would be my one thing. And for a team that starts Brunson and Cat, their defense is about as good as it could be, to be honest. Like, they have a really good defense when two of their three starters are Karl Anthony Towns and Brunson. And part of the reason that is because the Knicks are one of the best rebounding teams in the league. they get after you on the glass. Karl Anthony Towns, Mitchell Robinson, and the wings on offensive glass and defensive glass dominate teams. They dominate teams on the glass. And other than Wembanyama, I don't know if Champagnie and Vassell and Castle are going to be able to grab the extra rebounds, right? The ones that bounce out. Because the Knicks are an elite rebounding team. Josh Hart, for example, that guy could be a walking double-double this series with points and rebounds if he's out hustling these guys. So rebounding to me is another key because I think the Knicks are one of the best rebounding teams in the league. It starts with Cat and Mitchell Robinson, but it goes all the way up the roster, right? Everyone on their team rebounds, obviously, except for Brunson, but he does everything else for them. So defense, I agree, is going to be kind of an issue for the Knicks just because of kind of some liabilities out there, but they are an elite rebounding team, and they don't really give up second chance points. Against Wemby, definitely going to be difficult, but I expect them to get a body on Wemby and the other wings crash the glass, get rebounds, and start the fast break. And back to your Cup final point, Wemby does not take those losses lightly. You're right. And Wemby only played 25 minutes in that Cup final game. He was coming off injury. And there was only one game this season, the Knicks Spurs, where both teams were fully healthy. It was in Madison Square Garden. And the Knicks beat them by 25 points. Fully healthy. The only game that both teams were fully healthy. The Knicks won 2 of 3 in total, had an average margin of victory of 18 points against the Spurs in the regular season, and the only Spurs win was by 2 on a night where Julian Champagnie dropped 36 points. I think the Spurs are in for a long series if they're relying on Julian Champagnie to score 36 points a night to win the NBA Finals. The regular season doesn't mean a lot. However, we just saw the Spurs own Oklahoma City in the regular season, and then what did they do in the playoffs? They bounced them. So I do think the Knicks, according to the regular season, have matched up very well against San Antonio this season, and I think that is also something to keep an eye on with this series.
It's a great point there. In the rebounding battle, aside from the center foul battle, I think is the X factor. Like you said, the Knicks are a great rebounding team in their own right. And the Spurs at times struggled rebounding, especially in that Minnesota series. But I want to talk about that Game 7. In that first half, Oklahoma City was out rebounding the Spurs 26-14, nearly doubling them up on the boards. And because of that, they went into halftime with the lead. I am sure Mitch Johnson lit into his team in that halftime locker room about rebounding and about their effort level. They came out, they stopped letting the Spurs grab 3 offensive rebounds every single possession, and that's why they were able to come back and get the win. If they come out like they did in that first half, the Knicks, that game will go to the Knicks. I mean, you could not have a performance like that against a team that is this good at rebounding, with this kind of length, with this kind of grit that they show. You have to at least try to keep pace in the rebound battle. The Knicks are going to get their second chance points. It's going to happen with great rebounding teams. But if that's how they're accumulating the majority of their points, I don't know if the Spurs will be able to score enough to keep up. So rebounding is absolutely critical for this series, as well as both team centers' ability to stay on the court.
Yeah, I agree. I had both those written down. The other ones were coaching adjustments and turnovers to me, but that kind of goes with every series. Turnovers and rebounding kind of goes with every series. I'm ready to make a prediction if you are. I've got nothing else to talk about this series. I'm super excited. Anything else you want to add before we make our finals predictions here?
No, let's get him. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
All right,
Finals predictions. New York versus San Antonio. Who do you have?
Yeah, I want to start by saying I do believe the Spurs are the better team. I want to say that. But I am predicting the Knicks in 7 because of the regular season success they had against the Spurs. The 4 less games they've played through the first 3 rounds, I do believe will eventually matter. And my belief that the supporting cast of the Knicks right now is just a more well-rounded group than the Spurs supporting cast. Because, like you said earlier, Brunson's going to ball and Wemby's going to ball. That's going to happen. Like, there's no stopping either one of them in this series, I think. It's about the others. It's about the guys like J-Dub last year that could score 40 in a night, right? does OG have a 30 bomb in him to steal a game for the Knicks, right? Or does Champagny have another 36 bomb on him to steal a game for the Spurs, right? I think I trust the group of Knicks more. I trust the coach a little bit more. The rest and the regular season success. So I'm predicting Knicks in 7, which means they will win Game 7 on the road, which I wanted to say 6 just so they'd win at home, but I really think the Spurs are good enough to win 3 games. So I'm saying Knicks in 7 with Jalen Brunson winning Finals MVP. And one more point I want to make about my pick here. The Spurs, I don't think this is going to matter to the players, but the Spurs championship window will be open for a long time, right? As Joe Burrow said, the championship window is as long as I'm playing football. As long as Wembanyama's playing basketball, I'm pretty sure if he's healthy, they're going to have at least a chance to win a championship. The Knicks championship window is right now, this year. This is their chance. And I expect them to play with that level of desperation in this series, knowing that there are no guarantees for this group because they're all getting older. They've failed years prior to this. This is their best chance at a championship. I think that locker room knows that. I think that fan base knows that. And I think they will play with that desperation. I expect the Spurs to play with the same amount of desperation. But at the end of the day, the Spurs fan base knows that if they lose this series, the world is not ending, right? They can compete next year and the year after that and the year after that and the year after that. If the Knicks lose this series, when's the next time they'll be in the NBA Finals? I don't know. And I think that also went into my decision-making as well. It's the Knicks' year. It feels like it's their year, and it feels like the Spurs' year is coming. But Knicks in 7, Brunson wins Finals MVP. I'm assuming you're on the other side, but let's hear what you got.
Yeah, that narrative kind of sounds similar to last year, where everyone was like, the Thunder will compete for multiple years, but the Pacers' time to win is now because no one thought they would get there. So, to your point, I do think the Pacers played with the level of desperation unmatched by the Thunder throughout that series. And that's a big part of why they were able to push it to 7 to begin with. So that's definitely a factor to consider. The Knicks know they don't have many more years of elite Jalen Brunson play with him approaching 30 in a small guard. That's typically the archetype of player that doesn't age well in the NBA. So like you said, it's now or never for the Knicks, presumably. I also do think they have the advantage in terms of depth, as you said. I think Wemby will be the best player, but Knicks could very well have players 2 through 4 with Brunson, Cat, and one of either Anunoby or Bridges. And if you have the 2nd through 4th best players in a series, that bodes well for you. In all year, or at least all playoffs, I have been talking about how much experience matters. The Knicks are the more experienced team. They suffered a tough playoff run last year, a conference finals exit. They broke through. They got to that finals run. The Spurs are still on their first finals run. The only player with any kind of experience at this level is Harrison Barnes. And I think maybe Luke Cornett with the Celtics, but I'm not counting Luke Cornett as notable experience. I'm sorry. No disrespect to Luke Cornett. Absolute GOAT block. But yeah, he's not going to be a leader of any sort for the Spurs. So experience matters. The Knicks have the edge in that department. But you know what the Spurs did? They came out and they shut me up and they proved me wrong. I had them going out round 2 against the Denver Nuggets. Denver went out in round 1, so that was a terrible prediction in every way. But the Spurs proved me wrong. And then I thought if they were going to lose Game 6 against the Thunder because the Thunder were the more experienced team. Not only did they win the Game 6, but they went out and got a statement Game 7 win away. As young as the Spurs teams are, they have been ready for every single moment that has come their way this playoffs. I have talked all year about the game-changing force Wemby is and how I think he is the best player in the league right now. I am going to stop doubting him once and for all. Give me the Spurs in 6, with Wemby taking home his first of many Finals MVPs.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Wemby winning a ring in the Garden, he might become the biggest villain of all time to the Garden fans. If he ends their season in Madison Square Garden, he might actually be the biggest villain of all time. Yeah, the Spurs have shut a lot of people up for sure, and they seem like a team that doesn't really give a crap about experience. They don't care how many games you've played, how many games you've won, how many games you've lost. The hardest game to win is the next one, and so Me and Alex are on opposite sides of this. Both of us predicting this series will end with the road team winning. Kind of interesting. Didn't think that would happen. I've got Knicks in 7. You've got Spurs in 6. I'm very excited for this series. I think it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be great basketball.
It's gonna be the most, and not just that. This is going to be the most watched series since at least 2022 Warriors Celtics. With the, like you said, the draw that Wemby brings in, and the just the market that New York is. I mean, this could be one of the highest rated series of all time in terms of numbers. It's going to be exciting to watch. I know a lot of people are going to be watching their first playoff series this NBA Finals. A lot of new eyes are going to be on basketball. I'm sure it's going to be a great series. I hope it's going to be a great series, and I'm very excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I'm calling it right now. Game 1 on Wednesday is going to be the most watched finals game since 2016 Game 7. Cavs Warriors.
I think Warriors Celtics, those two markets are huge. I don't know if the numbers were for that.
It was LeBron Steph.
It's definitely going to.
It was LeBron Steph though.
Yeah,
Game 7 though.
2016 clears 2022. 2016 clears 2022, but I don't know if this series is going to hit 2016 numbers. I mean, that's a different beast in and of itself.
It will. I think it will. Honestly, the New York market is just so massive. Like, it's more than you think. Like, and Wemby is.
I know I'm probably underestimating it in my head.
Everyone tunes in to watch Wemby now. So, I think if it was Knicks Thunder, it would not be touching 2016. But I think everyone's like, yay, the Thunder are gone. I can actually watch the finals now. And I think people are going to tune in and see what it's about. I'm very excited for this series. I think it's one of the more evenly matched finals in recent history. Like, the last few, like last year, heading into the finals, the Thunder were projected to, like, sweep the Pacers or, like, beat them in 5 or something. Year before that, what was it, Boston? Was it Boston the year before the Thunder?
Dallas. Yeah, Boston and Dallas.
That series was not, on paper, that series was not close. That was the year Dallas overachieved. The year before that was Denver, Miami. That was the 8 seed year. I feel like this is the most evenly matched finals we've had in a long time, and I'm very excited for it.
Agreed. Before we move into our last segment, I just want to say, I think this is the most praise I've ever heard you give Wemby in an episode. I'm happy to see you finally giving Wemby the respect he deserves.
I can admit I was wrong about a lot of things about Wembanyama this year, okay, as were a lot of people. I still have my own opinions that he's not the best player in the world, but I don't want to get into that today because at the end of the day, I was rooting for them to beat the Thunder, and I wanted them to beat OKC so badly, and I'm so happy for him and his teammates, and he is really fun to watch, so there's that part of it too. But yes, I was wrong a lot about Wemby, so yeah, the generational glaze that you give him, I don't agree with at times, but I can admit I was wrong about Wemby this year.
Yeah, glad to hear you admit it. At least you can admit it. Let's move on to our last segment because this is something I've been excited for. Max had a great idea before the episode of an NBA 20 questions. Each of us has picked out a player that has played this year in the playoffs, that has seen the court. And me and Max are going to bounce off 20 yes or no questions to each other. And after those 20 questions, we are going to try and guess who this player is. If maybe I explained that right? Max,
yep.
Do you have anything to add?
Before we get started, I also want to make sure I did not include play-in teams, only the 8 teams that made it to the playoffs. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Okay, all right. Would you like to go?
One question about rules. Does guessing a player count as a guess?
Yes, as a question.
That counts as one of your 20 questions.
Yes. Okay, it does count.
Okay.
Yep.
Just so we're on the same page there.
So.
All right, I have my player. Max has his player. We picked it out before the episode started.
Yep, I've got mine. Do you want to guess first and set the bar, or do you want me to go first and see how many questions you have to beat it in?
Yeah, I got a good question to start off.
Okay, all right. So Alex is going to ask his 20 questions and try and guess the player, and then I'm going to try and get his player in less questions than Alex got it. I guess we're not going to alternate questions. I think that would get confusing.
Okay. That makes sense. That's a good idea. All right. Get my first question. Is this player in the Eastern Conference?
No.
No. Okay, so a Western Conference team. Okay. Question 2. Did this player have home court advantage in the first round?
Yes.
Yes, so a top 4 seed in the West. So either Thunder, Spurs, Nuggets, or Lakers. Is this player a starter or a primary starter on his team?
Yes.
Okay, a starter. So we have 20 players now. I get primary star. I'd say we got about 20 players to choose from. Okay. Has this player ever made an All-Star game?
No.
No All-Stars for this player. Okay, so Thunder, Spurs, Nuggets, Lakers. Starters, but no All-Stars. Okay. Did this... okay.
You're at 4 questions. Hold on. You're at 4,
yeah.
correct? Okay, I'm just making sure. All right, continue.
Yeah, I'm at 4. Okay, my 5th. Was this team in the Western Conference Finals?
No.
Okay, so either Nuggets or Lakers. Starter, non-All-Star. Okay, I'll make my first guess. Is it your player, Aaron Gordon?
No.
Okay, worth a shot. All right, so it's still either Nuggets or Lakers. Is he on the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yes.
Okay, Lakers starters, non-All-Star. So not Luka, not LeBron. Could be Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, or DeAndre Ayton. Has to be one of those 3, I think. How many questions have I had?
7.
This is my 8th?
Yeah, you're doing great. Yeah, this will be your 8th question.
Okay. If it's one of the, I'm willing to use my next 3 round guesses. Is it Rui Hachimura?
Yes. Great first guess.
Bang!
Great first guess.
Single digits.
Great
That's
first
what
guess.
we like to see.
All right, so 8 questions is the number to beat. That's gonna be difficult. Yes, my player was Rui Hachimura. So great job. I'm gonna have to do a snipe job here.
Very happy with that performance. I mean, I did not think I would get it within single digits. I think I set the bar high, Max. You got it.
Yeah, you definitely did. All right, I got to lock in here. This is going to be difficult. Okay. All right, I'm going to start similar path, just try and eliminate teams. Was your player on a team on a top 4 seed?
No.
Okay, bottom 4 seed, either conference. Okay. Was your player on a bottom 2 seed?
No.
Okay, so seed 5 or 6 in either conference. Okay. Is your player in the Eastern Conference?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that would be the Raptors or the Hawks. Okay. Is your player on the Hawks?
No.
Okay, Raptors.
This is your 5th?
Yeah, I've asked 4. This is my 5th. Does your player start for the Raptors?
No. I'm going to double check this just because I want to make sure he's not a primary starter. I'm going to answer yes if he started over half the games in the playoffs, and no if he has not. I just don't want to lead you astray. I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but let me confirm. It would be tragic if I'm sharing my screen right now. Let's see. He was not a starter, no.
Okay. That's tough. I feel like I should use a question on that. I'm between multiple people. I don't think there's anyone other than those guys that you would go to. Okay. Is your player's jersey number single digits?
No.
Okay. So a non-single
That was a
digit
good
number.
question.
Okay. That definitely eliminated some people off their bench. Okay. Okay. I'm between. I mean, I have two guesses to tie. I'm between three players. I got two questions left to tie. This is tight. I'm debating between asking another question and one guess or two guesses. I don't know what the strategy is here.
Yeah, what's the thought process right now? What's going on? What's going on through the mind while you're making this decision?
Um, I really wish you took a couple more questions to get to Rui. I really wish you guessed like Aiton first or Reeves first. That's kind of what's going through my head. Like one extra question, and I'm feeling really good right now. I'm trying to think of a question that can narrow it down to one of the three. Um, it's so tough. Okay. I don't think you went to this guy. Actually, oh, that's a great point, Max. Okay, I just light bulb just went off my head. Is your player's jersey number less than 30?
No.
Okay. All right, I think I have my guess. If it's not this guy, then well, it sucks, but so jersey number greater than 30. Are you Mamu, don't know how to say his name, Vili?
Yes.
Yes!
That's it.
Yes!
Sandra Mamukirashvili.
Yes!
No way.
Yes! Yes!
That jersey number was such a good route to go down. That was a great way to narrow it down because he wears 54. That's such an obscure number.
Yes.
Why is he wearing 54? I didn't even think of that.
I was between him
54,
and Jamal Shed, which is why I asked less than 30. But I was also between Jacoby Walter. But the light bulb that went off in my head is because Quickly was hurt, Walter actually was starting most of the games. So I was able to cross him out. 300 IQ.
That is big brain. That is big brain. I was thinking so hard of pulling AJ Lawson because he played 5 minutes in one of the games.
I knew you wouldn't do that.
I thought it would have just been mean.
Yeah, I knew you wouldn't do that. I knew you would pick someone that I've heard of. I knew you would pick someone I've heard of. So, wow, we tied 8 questions each. Oh, that was. I feel like all right. So
20 questions. It's a game. It's
yeah,
a game of 10 questions.
Good to know for next time that we do this. That we don't need 20 questions. We definitely don't need 20 questions.
No, if you're hitting over 10, you've done something wrong.
Yeah. Good round. Do you want to do like a tiebreaker, or do you want to save it for next time?
Let's save the tiebreaker for the next episode.
All right, I like
the fans something to look forward to.
Yeah, I like that. Well, those are our predictions then for the NBA Finals that start, as I've said multiple times, Wednesday night. I believe it'll be the GOAT Mike Breen on the call all series. Thank goodness we're done listening to Reggie Miller and Jamal Crawford. I can't stand the NBC crew. I really don't like them. I would much rather listen to Mike Breen and Richard Jefferson. So I hope, yeah. And hey, no Doris Burke this year in the finals. So that's a national treasure. Just that's a win in itself for all basketball fans. Mm-hmm. So anything else you want to add before we close this episode?
No, I think that's about it. That will wrap up this episode of the Hoopers Lounge. Like Max has said, Game 1 starts Wednesday, and we're hella excited for it over here. Not much else to say. We've given you what we think is going to happen. We've given you matches to look forward to. Comment down below whether you agree what else should be on the lookout this finals or who you think is going to take home the NBA title this year. And until then, we'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.
Peace.